Hey, I'm Tony Ricketts from Lawnline Marketing.
Zach here as well, Lawnline Marketing.
Today, we're here to talk about a balanced marketing strategy. We're talking about short-term versus long-term. How does that work with your business? Short-term marketing are going to be the items that are going to bring you the fast ROI. Zach, tell us about these short-term marketing items.
Sure. So most people think ads. Ads is the first thing that comes to mind. Now, there's a variety of platforms that you can get those, that you can host ads on. Each one has their perks. Each one has their downsides. That's a whole separate video in itself.
Absolutely.
But we're talking short-term versus long-term. Short-term, ideally, ads, but there's other things that can fall into that.
Yep. And how long? How long does it take for a short-term marketing strategy to actually start producing? What is short-term? Is short-term tomorrow? Is it next week? What is that?
Short-term could be between, I would say, a day to a week. Depends on how long it takes you to build out the ads, how long it takes you to get them up and going. Different platforms have different, you can say, waiting periods that things have to go through review and all that.
Absolutely.
But generally speaking, if you've got that budget going, ads are built out, you're ready to rock, realistically, a day to 7 days, you'll see those leads coming in immediately.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I love about short-term is that it's going to bring those immediate results, but they're also very trackable results. So you're going to be able to track that ROI right away. It gets the fire lit. When I'm always talking about the fire analogy, building a fire. Short-term marketing strategies is like building a fire with gasoline, right? Whereas your long-term is like building a fire with the wood. The wood is going to take a lot longer to burn. It is, and it's not going to be as trackable as the short-term stuff is, right? Because with the short-term stuff, you're actually paying a dollar amount to get a lead to come out of it. And if you close that lead, you'll have a percentage that you close and you'll get a direct ROI on it. Whereas with long-term strategies that we're gonna talk about in a minute, those are far more difficult to actually track the true ROI on those.
And on the shorter term as well, you've got the ability to adjust on the fly. That's one of the perks.
Yep.
So when you're looking at the long term, you set up your SEO strategy or whatever else you want to lump into the long term, that's going to be harder to adjust as you go. But when we're looking at short term, you're on Facebook, Google, Microsoft, whatever it is, you can see, okay, one day, it's been one day and I've gotten this number of leads and I can see the demographic is not what I need to be. My cost per lead is too high, or these are not closing while these ones are. I can make adjustments, whatever it is, the audiences, the creative,
right.
All of that can be adjusted on the fly, and that falls strictly within that short term.
Right, and I think your adjustments there is actually a key piece to this, because when it comes to the short-term stuff, adjustments can be made right away and see the results right away. So let's say, for example, you're in a seasonal business like our lawn and landscape companies are. When things like aeration season come around, or to sell your fertilization or Christmas lights or whatever it may be, you can make adjustments to start seeing instant results from those things right away. However, the problem with the long-term stuff is you don't see those instant adjustments, and oftentimes it's a gray area trying to understand what adjustments actually made the improvement happen, because you used SEO as an example of a long-term strategy. That is a long-term strategy, and we'll talk about that. But when we make changes for SEO, you're looking at those results 30 days out from the time that you made those changes. That's when you're starting to see those results. Well, it's not like we can just make 12 changes a year to a website. We have to continuously keep testing things and improving things. And if you can't even start to see results for 30 days from them, how do you know 100% that it was that specific change that you made? Which you don't, right? You just have to
The
use
trackability
best
side of the longer term is going to be much more difficult than
Absolutely.
On the shorter term. You know, shorter, you can say this lead came directly from this platform based off of XYZ variables. When you're looking at the longer term strategy, it's so much harder to pin down. There's other factors that you can track that can impact your decision making, and we can dive into that as well. But the actual knobs and levers that you can pull, it's harder to see the direct correlation on the other side.
Absolutely. Well, let's list off the short-term stuff. I know you mentioned a couple of them, but let's get them all on the list here, and I'm sure we can even do some fancy pop them up on a screen or something. All right, so we're gonna go with, we got my favorite short-term is going to be Google local service ads.
Absolutely.
Honestly, that is my favorite. And the reason is because you can get good quality leads out of there. Granted, they're not as high quality as Google search ads are, but the cost per lead on them, you just can't beat it.
It's a third of a cost, generally speaking.
Absolutely, and you're talking to people for the most part on the phone. Yes, they have a message option now, but the phone option is amazing. So
Always.
Google local service ads is a short term.
Yep.
Another short term, traditional Google ads, Google search ads, Google remarketing ads, just your general Google pay-per-click ads that everybody knows. Your Microsoft ads are another short-term strategy. Those are going to be exactly like Google ads. They just run on the other search engines that are not Google. So Bing, Yahoo, AOL, MSN, all those others. Social media ads, like we were just talking about. You mentioned that one. Facebook, Instagram run on the same platform, but there's also all the other platforms out there. Now there's still, besides those, there's still a couple of other quick short-term marketing things that you can do. One of the big things that I would also say is going to be your SMS email marketing. That's a great way for very short, fast, low-hanging fruit to bring on revenue from those particular methods, and they're very, very effective.
I would add to that as well social media offers. Depending on what your following looks like, it might be a little bit of a longer term, but if you've got a decent following, you can run some offers on social media. Again, super trackable. Use a tracking phone number, use a trackable link, however you want to set that up. All of that, though, can be attributed back as well.
Yeah. Yep. Review building would be another one that I would say. Believe it or not, building reviews is a marketing approach. It is a marketing tactic. And the reason I say that you can see short-term results from it is for two reasons. One is it can improve your SEO dramatically, very quickly through the Google business profiles. But two, you can dramatically increase your closing rate immediately. So closing more of the leads that you're already bringing in is going to be very effective compared to constantly bringing in new leads all the time. But Zach, what do you think are going to be the most effective long-term strategies?
So when we're looking at the long term, start with a fantastic website. Make sure the technical aspects are down. Make sure they're pat, they're solid, they follow SEO best practices. And then longer term, you're looking at content building. Continue to build up the content on the website. High quality, unique content. Consistency is key. Build that up, and everything else will come with it. But anything centered around the SEO aspect is going to fall under the long-term category.
So one of the most important things that I think you said there was that the long-term, what is long-term? What does that mean? And I feel like long-term is going to be different to everybody, specifically though with their geographics, right? When we're talking about marketing, you always want to get a market share, market domination, be visibly known in the market, right? Have a brand. And doing that in New York City is going to be a whole lot harder than doing that in Columbia, Missouri. So when you look at long-term, when somebody comes to us and says, hey, we service all of Long Island and we want to make a brand name there and be known, and we're ready to take the long-term approach, that's going to be a decade and millions of dollars on Long Island. But if we go to Columbia, Missouri, we can probably get that done in a few weeks. Now, that's a joke, but 6 months.
6 months is reasonable.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean 6 months, because it's just far less competition, far less expensive, and far less people to reach. So I think that's a key point that people have to remember. A long-term strategy is going to be long-term relative to your competition and your market. And I think that's a key piece that people need to hear. All right, let's talk about the strategies for long-term digital marketing and what does that look like. The obvious is SEO, but what does SEO mean? SEO is a generalized term. It's like medical, right? What does medical mean? So yes, SEO is long-term, and it's the number one thing that most people focus on long-term. But Zach, break it down for us. What is the long-term aspects of SEO and what do they need to focus on?
Absolutely. So link building is going to be critical. That's an often overlooked aspect. It's harder to do than just building content, for sure. You've got to have the right systems in place. You have to have the right processes and understand exactly what you're shooting for in relation to your competition. Internal content building is going to be massive as well. So combining those two, that's going to get you 80% of the way there, but there's so many other aspects that you can combine on there. We talked about review building. Review building is going to be a huge one. Other aspects, social signals, that goes under the radar as well. People don't really consider that from an SEO standpoint, but sending those signals from your trusted social media platforms back over to your websites, and even vice versa, that's also going to impact your SEO results.
100%. Now, SEO is not the only long-term strategy out there that's going to make a difference. Remarketing or retargeting, depending on what flavor you decide to call it, they're both the same thing. That's a massively powerful approach. It's very cost-effective. So to tell you a little bit about the remarketing, if you're unfamiliar with it, everybody has seen it out there. If you ever gone to Amazon before, you looked at a product and then that damn product starts following you everywhere you go, including their competition. That's a remarketing approach. You engaged with something that on a platform where that platform then allowed you as the business owner to stay in front of the consumer that engaged with you. So whether that be Facebook or whether that be Amazon or whatever it may be, as you engage on different platforms, different websites, and go different places, you get put into various audience groups that you can then send advertisements, education, content to further help bring them to buying or to further instill your brand in their memory. So I would say that remarketing is a great long-term strategy, especially as you build your audience. But you got to have the audience to build first before you can start on.
And it is a paid approach. It's one of the longer-term paid approaches, though, relatively speaking. You're showing up on these banners. What percent of people actually click these banners? You know, the views to the actual banner clicks themselves are insignificant, but that's what you want, because now the brand, people are seeing the brand, they recognize it. You know, it's free digital billboards at that point.
Yeah, and remarketing's cheap too. Like when we're talking about remarketing with Google Ads, it's a banner, like you said. Nobody ever clicks those banners. No. But what they also don't realize is that's a pay-per-click spot. So that means when that banner showed up there and you looked at it and you never clicked on it, they just got a free billboard in front of you. It didn't cost them one single penny to be able to do that. And you know what? When they do click on it, that cost is going to range anywhere on the low end from 10 to 25 cents up to $1 or $2 for that click. You know, compared to what we pay for clicks for other types of searches, that's extremely cheap, and it keeps you in front of your consumers. And it's best for those that sell long sales process services. So if you're a landscape company, outdoor living company, you're putting in patios, fire pits, outdoor kitchens, pools, any of that kind of stuff. These are long sales process things. They're not going to happen fast. So remarketing is a great, effective way to stay in front of those people long term. So even 2 years down the road, if they decide they're ready to buy, you've been the one in front of them for 2 years and you did it on the cheap.
And talking about staying in front of people on the cheap, I think something that also goes unrecognized, or maybe especially in this industry, is viewed as less important, is going to be your actual brand awareness. Building the brand, doing it organically, shooting videos of your teams, your staff, staying in front of people, providing information, utilizing that on social platforms, on the website. Whatever you can do to stay in front, stay relevant, give people information, and entertain. Building up the brand, it's not easy by any stretch. Some of this is more technical, and if you've got the technical skills to do it, great. If you don't, you can get in front of a video, you can shoot some fun videos, hire a Gen Z kid down the block to do it for you if you don't want to do it. But there's so much opportunity in that regard as well that I think goes underutilized in this industry.
Yep. All right, let's talk about implementation. Short versus long-term strategies. And this balance is one of the critical reasons why you must hire a professional to handle your marketing strategy for you. Because your buddy who owns a business said, oh, I did so great with Google Ads, or I did so great with Facebook. And you decide, okay, well, let me try that. Let me go hire a company or an individual and just run my Google Ads for me, but don't worry about anything else. When you do that, you are at the mercy of Google Ads for the rest of your life, because you are going to build an infrastructure, you're going to build employees, you're going to build all of this stuff around lead volume coming from Google Ads that you're consistently paying for all the time. If you ever decide to stop, you're going to be in big trouble.
Dead in the water.
Or if Google ever changes anything, you're going to be in big trouble. So it's not a great idea to just focus on only short-term strategies, because you're always going to be paying top dollar for your leads. Your cost per customer acquisition is going to be higher than everybody else, and you're at the mercy of those platforms all the time. They change stuff every day, every single day. So you don't want to be on just a short-term approach, but at the same time, you don't want to be on a long-term approach only either, because if you do that, here you're putting in all this effort, all this work, maybe paying somebody to do it for you, and you're not seeing an ROI come out of it.
It's an investment. You're going to have to wait.
It's an investment. So this is where it is critically important to hire a marketing agency that understands your industry so that they can formulate a well-balanced short-term together with the long term. Especially if you're in an industry like our clients are with lawn and landscape, this is a seasonal business. So you have to shift long-term versus short-term efforts constantly throughout the year towards different things. So that's my take on why it's important to have a balanced marketing strategy. It's not too far leaning left or right when it comes to short-term versus long-term. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that as well. The goal being, let's wean ourselves off of those higher paid opportunities and balance it out more on the organic side, that longer term strategy. So the goal is, let's head towards the organic side like this, and in the meantime, supplement it with the paid ads. And if necessary, the shorter term strategy, you know, even further down the road, depending on what your goals are. I think as your goals shift, so should your marketing strategy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point that you brought up there, is that over time, you want to do less of the short term stuff and let your long term drive the bulk of your leads. I mean, when we look at some of our biggest, most successful clients, they've been around for a while. We've been doing a lot of long-term stuff for them for a while, and that produces 90-95% of their lead volume. They don't really have to do too much of the short stuff. I mean, they have it there just to have that visibility, But where it becomes more effective for an established company that's really been working on their long-term brand is when they want to introduce like new services. So let's say, for example, that you're a turf care company and you're introducing mosquito control. That's a perfect example of wanting to use short-term marketing strategies to jumpstart that side of the business very quickly.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And then incorporate it into your long-term strategy. You got the gas going, let's build the actual fire, build the logs, get it going, get the content, ramp it all up together. You don't want to be relying on short-term forever.
Absolutely. In that example I just gave of a turf care company bringing on mosquito control, yeah, you would use the short term to jumpstart. It's like using the gasoline on a fire. You use it to get a big flame, to get a big result right away. But the end goal should be to get that wood burning, and your organic and other various long-term marketing strategies to continuously keep bringing in those customers all the time, and you don't have to pay the platforms like Google and Facebook for it on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, making sure that these budgets are balanced, making sure that the strategies align with your goals of your company, that's what it's all about. And having a professional do that for you makes a world of a difference comparing to trying to do it internally. You know, focus on what you're good at, focus on the lawn care, focus on growing your own business. Let the marketing professionals handle the marketing.
100%. If you want some more tips like this, tune in to Lawnline Marketing on social media, on YouTube, and we'll be continuously bringing them to you.